Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, Yankees captain and Team USA captain Aaron Judge will move on with Team USA as they defeat the Dominican Republic. Slightly stunning fashion, made that they won, but in fact, they came down to a 2-1 final score with two big offenses going at it. And of course, all the controversy about how the game ended on a controversial called third strike. So we'll go off the charts a little bit away from the world of Yankees. And again, some Yankees were involved in this game there, so it is worth mentioning and kind of giving my 2 cents about the controversial third strike to end the game there. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to this podcast. Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And there's also a YouTube version of the show. Go to YouTube, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, and subscribe there as well. So getting into this big game, which the game itself kind of transcends baseball a little bit, where, you know, I think it's worth talking about, even though it doesn't have to deal with the Yankees directly. But whether it's going to be USA, the Dominican Republic, or Japan, you know, one of those three teams. If the USA could go up against one of those two there, you know it's going to be a big game. It's going to be much to talk about. A lot of big stars there, so I think it was almost for the better that these two teams locked up, just because again the rosters on both sides were just astronomical. Everything involved there to have these two teams go at is probably a little bit more of an ideal situation. Yeah, you know, everyone likes Ohtani and so forth but of course having the USA and the DR locking up with all these big names involved, more appetizing, and we did get it, and did get an excellent game there. And again, it was up to the billing there. So, a lot of these games kind of fall short. This is actually a game, even before the season started, these players are fully, warmed up in their usual way they are during the regular season. Again, top-notch October baseball, as kind of Ortiz put it. David Ortiz there, as part of the Fox crew. Again, this game did live up to the billing, and of course involves a number of Yankees. Of course, Aaron Judge, Bednar. You look on the other side, the Dominican team, you had Austin Wells catching for them, as well as Doval, again, all appearing in this game and making big impacts one way or another. And of course, it all comes down to the final strike there, where Perdomo took a called third strike, a low breaking ball slider, I guess, which was, it looks you got the square there, was a little below the strike zone there, but on a breaking ball, you see that called a strike a ton of times there. And the Dominican team kind of tried to take the high road a little bit, saying, well, we're saying this, but we're not saying this. We're saying this, but we're not saying this. Obviously complaining a little bit about that call after the game there. But again, of course, I'll just go back to start just to break the whole thing down. First of all, a number of things you look at there. I mean, as I mentioned before, there weren't really two calls of the game very similar to that. Everyone looks at that call, but there's also early in the game, in the 8th inning, with Garrett Whitlock of the Red Sox, beginning the inning by striking out Juan Soto on a similar type of breaking ball pitch low in the zone there. That was called a third strike. Soto didn't like the call, had words with the umpire, didn't get himself tossed out or anything like that. Maybe if it was a regular season, maybe it would have been a little bit more heated about it. But of course, with this sort of World Baseball Classic thing, I guess you want to try to keep it classy a little bit, not go after the umpire. But nevertheless, Soto wasn't happy with that call, but at least it was established that he was calling these low strikes, so that should have been in mind there. And then what happened there in the bottom of the 9th with Tatis threatening on third base, where a ball in the third that wasn't fielded cleanly could easily score the tying run there. Miller gets the called third strike on a low slider. Now, yes, if you look at where it actually got caught, it was caught below the quote-unquote strike, the little box there, the image that you see on the TV screen. But in general, on breaking balls there especially, we see that cold strike more often than not, especially on a breaking pitch there, where you don't see it really as you're watching TV, but it does catch a piece of the plate, again, when it's taking that downward dip there. So we've seen it a million times. Could have been called a ball, yes, but again, it's too close to take in that situation. So if the Dominican team wants to complain to anybody, they complain themselves. Perdomo had a good at bat there. I mean, he worked it to 3-2. He fouled off a bunch of tough pitches. Some of those pitches were coming in over 100 miles per hour, and then of course he was taking some of his off-speed breaking ball pitches as well there. So look, it's a tough assignment, a tough at bat there. But in that case, when you're 3-2, unless the ball is completely out of the strike zone, you can't just sit there and think the umpire is going to help you out. The umpire is not going to help you out in that situation. That's just a little bit old baseball adage, as they say. You got to still swing in that situation. Probably you foul the pitch off and you get yourself another pitch there, and hey, maybe the next pitch is rides high or is too low or is in the dirt, and then of course you pass the baton to the other player there. But you can't just sit there and take a pitch that close and then cross your fingers and think the umpire is going to bail you out. I mean, it has to be kind of almost grossly out of the zone in that situation for the umpire to bail you out. The umpire is not going to bail you out, and it did catch enough of the plate on a breaking plane there to be called strike. So it was not a gross call. I would say 75% of the time that's going to get called a strike there, so they shouldn't be surprised. And afterwards, kind of complaining a little bit. Not exactly pointing at that, but saying, well, it was a bad call, but we're not going to say that. But they were kind of saying that, anywhere from the manager, Pujols, to some of the players. But really what happened with the real backstory of this whole thing is that the Dominican team came in a little cocky. We all saw it up and down. Obviously, they probably thought they're better than Team USA. Look, flip a coin, I don't know. Maybe if these teams played each other 5 times, maybe the Dominican teams win 3 times, maybe it wins 4 times, maybe they win all 5 games. Who knows? But again, with this World Baseball Classic format, it's best of one and done. In any game, anything could happen, especially when we saw just a couple of days ago, Team USA losing to Team Italy, as it remained as the only undefeated team in this thing. And we'll see how far they go. That would be an interesting matchup if the USA team and the Italy team have a rematch as that becoming the final game, but that's yet to be determined. But getting back to the Dominican team, they probably came in all cocky there. We saw the pregame with A-Rod and Ortiz kind of spouting off there and putting on the Dominican hat, and you understand it. That's their country for most of them, at least the heritage for A-Rod, so you don't blame them, whatever. But a lot of them probably came in cocky. They felt they were going to clearly win. They were blowing out every other team there. They had a perfect 5-0 record, and they probably thought they were just going to come in there and just wail on Team USA, and that's not what happened there, and they lost. And now they're being a little whiny about it there because you had this great lineup with Soto and Guerrero, Julio Rodriguez and so forth, Machado, where you'd think they'll score, and they were held to just 1 run there. But again, this tip your hat off to the Team USA's pitching. Surprised DeRosa went as long as he did with him. I know they said he had a 75 pitch limit there, but even after getting out of a bases loaded situation, you would think if he'd done there, they actually bought him out, try to get a couple more outs out of him. And then if you go the rest of the way with Team USA's bullpen, which was just really the star of the show, I mean, from Tyler Rogers, inducing a big double play with a couple runners on with Soto at the bat there. David Bednar, the Yankee closer, getting out of a huge jam. We see him do this with the Yankees in the half year he pitched, or at least less than a half year he pitched in pinstripes last year. He's not like, super shut him down, never gets out of an inning with 12 pitches there. I mean, he's always going to put a run or 2 on there. And then, of course, he has his breaking stuff. He gets a lot of swing and misses low in his zone with his curveball and his breaking balls there. And, again, got out of a huge jam, get 2 strikeouts to get out of his jam in the 8th inning. And then, of course, the big at-bat with Tatis on third base with 2 outs. The San Diego Padres close the middle, go pump triple digits, working a count to 3-2 against Perdomo there, and then snapping a slider there just to catch enough of the low part of the plate and getting the called third strike. So Perdomo caught looking to end the game. And, of course, for them, the Dominican team kind of felt left there hapless. They ran out of time, ran out of outs there, and they'd have to take the 2-1 loss, which, they should just be able to stomach that. And if they don't want to blame anyone, they could blame themselves. I mean, you go different parts of this game. Of course, Fernando Tatis Jr. trying to test Judge's arm early on in the game. Now, look, we know Judge had the bad elbow last year, and we're not sure 100% if he was really going to able to air it out or not. Obviously, we saw it towards last year in September and in October. Some of those games against both Boston and Toronto that Judge wasn't completely throwing with full strength with that elbow, so maybe they figured it was still lingering with it. They tested it. Tatis got himself thrown out by a large margin, and then even later in the game, there was a kind of bit of a base running blunder, hit the center field with Tatis on in there, and it seemed like he would have been gone to third base easily, because maybe after getting thrown out the first time, he didn't want to test it there, held up at second base. That probably cost the Dominican team a run there. And of course, Austin Wells, the Yankee catcher playing for the Dominican team, initially hitting a double early on to get on second base. Surely at that point there, after the USA was up 2-1, it looked like he would be able to come around the score. After a hit, holds himself up on third base, where he could have easily scored. People want to blame Albert Pujols for not pinch running him at second base. I don't think you do it in that situation. It's a little early in the game. And again, you only have one other catcher. You don't want to pitch run from too early. And it's not like Wells is some old beat up veteran, 37 years old, who can't run anymore. I mean, he's still a young guy in his 20s. Okay, may not be the fastest player in the world, but no reason why he couldn't score on that hit after his double there. Could have easily tied the score 2-2. He decides to hold up at third base. So fun to look at both Tatis and Wells. I mean, that himself they could blame if they want to look for reasons why they lost this game. And as well as mentioned for Soto before, his at bat has a runner on. Tyler Rogers just comes out of the bullpen. And Soto, swinging early in the count, bounces the ball to second base, tailor-made double play for the second baseman, able to take it for himself, step on the bag and throw to first to get the double play and get Team USA out of the jam. So, the Dominican team had a couple opportunities in this game, and if you wanted to, you want to blame the Miami win. I mean, look at Judge's shot to center field that I don't know if it was going to go over the wall. It might have hit the top of the wall, but of course Julio Rodriguez, the center fielder, able to jump up, rob him. That almost was a home run as well there, and they got a little bit of a gift. Again, if judges could have gotten a little extra mustard on that, or maybe if the air in Miami was just a tad bit different, that also could have been a home run. But again, the Dominican team getting a little break there as well. So you can look at the two strikeouts. Again, I mentioned the one to end the game, but the one early before that, Garrett Whitlock, who he looked this as nasty. In fact, I was almost saying, you know what? Yeah, he pitched the 8th inning, but he was just untouchable. Bring him out for the 9th. Why would you mess with that? But they went with Miller in that, and I guess that was a better decision. But Whitlock, of course, starting off the 8th inning, gets Juan Soto on a similar cold strike, very low in the zone there. So, this umpire established that he was calling the low strike on those breaking pitches. So, hey. It's not like they pulled the wool over anybody's eye. And if you want to look at some of the bats early, again, always watch Judge. You can nitpick some bats there if you want to start picking off, strikes and balls that should have went the other way there. Overall, I thought it was a well-officiated game, consistent, and again, we've seen a million times there, breaking balls like that, getting called as strikes, and it was not gross. We've seen a lot of gross stuff. This was not an Angel Hernandez behind the plate situation there where, someone just misses by a foot there. This is not that situation. The ball had enough spin in the bottom of the zone there, even if the catcher's glove caught it below there. That gets called strikes so many times. Again, the majority of the time that gets called a strike there. So that was not a gross call. It was just a very tight game. Two teams there. Both bullpens are great. And, if you're a Yankee fan, you want to take away some of this, look at this, the back end of your bullpen. Camilo Doval and David Bednar. The two of them pitched great in this game. Doval struck out the side. He was throwing 99. I don't know if it's something with that radar gun. when the Yankees got him last season, I don't remember him throwing 99 a lot. So if that's what we got, yeah, that's great news for the Yankees. And, of course, Bednar, even if he bends a little bit, he doesn't break, and he's got that toughness. So if you worry about him getting big outs in some big games, I understand the World Baseball Classic's not the World Series, but he did prove he could do it there. So if you're a Yankee fan, you want to take some of this away, I'll definitely look at that. And, of course, looking at Judge. Did strike out in a big spot early in the game against Severino, but overall he played good in this game. Again, the defense, the throws, and not only that, just really all the games in this World Baseball Classic. Some of the games he hit some home runs. We see some good defense by him, some dives. Obviously, it looks like the arm is back or pretty close to it from, the gun that we remember as Yankee fans, before he hurt his elbow last season there. So a lot of stuff to take away. Even Austin Wells, just to see him, almost getting kind of maturing a little bit in this spot. And, of course, he had the huge home run a couple of days ago against, I guess that was Korea there, that put the team up 10-0. I guess the mercy rule, they ended it there. So, good to see him just getting a big home run in a big moment as well. And hopefully he could bring some of this, into this 2026 Yankee season. So that's my 2 cents on it. Team USA moves on with Judge. It was a very good game. Lived up to the billing. Made up for a lousy Super Bowl, if you want to go cross sports there. But the Dominican team has nothing to complain about. If you're sitting there, you're Perdomo, you got to swing the bat, and it's too close to take. And if you're just looking for the umpire to bail you out, that situation, you're going to be in trouble there. So maybe it humbles them up a little bit, and maybe next time around, maybe things will be different. Catch you next time.